friends, it's Amy at Doki Doki Forest, and today I am sharing with you the journal pages I created for the Journal Prompt Challenge Inspired to Create _2023. This is hosted by Allison at AJ's Inspired Life and Melissa at Messy Missy Creates, and I will have all of the information below in case you would like to check it out, and I hope you do because they are doing some cool stuff every week, and some other people are doing some really cool stuff too. So this is the word for April 19th, because every Wednesday a new word comes out. So the word was earth, because of course we had Earth Day last Saturday. So this is last week's word. And so I once again exchanged prompts with my friend, and we decided we wanted to do words that had to do with the earth and nature. So here is what she gave me. For E, I had energy. A was atmosphere. R was roots. T was temperature. And H was habitat. And so I sat with these words for a while, and I felt like these were some big concepts. And I was like, how do I take kind of a big concept and turn it into something that can work on a page and you can actually tell what it is? So for temperature, all I could think of was, like a thermometer, but I really didn't want to do a thermometer. So then I was looking at energy, and I'm thinking, how do I do energy? And so sometimes when I feel stuck like that, I actually will just go to the dictionary and I will read the definition for the word. Now I know what energy is, but to kickstart ideas, a lot of times it's really helpful to just look up what is energy, what is atmosphere, and then all of a sudden you start reading about something and it can spark ideas. So when I looked up what is energy, it was listing, different types of energy. And then, I was reading how the sun creates a thermal energy. So then I was like, okay, I can make a sun. Then I had roots and habitat. And I sort of thought of combining those together as I'm doing here. And I thought, what if I have these roots and, it's actually this big tree, and actually the roots and tree form a whole planet. So, and then I was thinking, that goes along with the atmosphere. I was still thinking like somehow I can show that there's the cold of space and then the warmth of where the atmosphere is holding in the thermal energy and making an environment where something can live and grow. Are you still with me? So I had temperature, the cold of space, and then the warmth that would be inside the atmosphere. And then I have this tree planet, so I have my roots. And then I have, I thought I'll make some habitat areas on this tree so I can have a sort of jungle area. And then I drew crystals. Instead of having mountains, I drew crystals. And then a little pocket of water. It's like a little ocean, or maybe it's just a lake. But either way, the point is that this tree is massive, and it's somehow, uprooted itself and floated into space and, found this place in space that was just perfect for hosting a tree with a sun to give it light and warmth and water and, So these are just sort of all the things going around in my head as I was thinking up ideas. So I was super excited drawing this tree. I was really thrilled with this tree. I really have never drawn anything like this. I know I've said that before, but this is what happens when you do prompts. And I was so excited, I drew it humongous. So this is really big, and there's no way I can fit it on my journal page. So what I did was I scanned it and printed it out, and then I actually drew it again using a light board. I mean, you can just use a window. And actually by light board, I actually do have a light board. I couldn't find it. And so what I actually used was my iPad. So I just put turned up the brightness, put the illustration on actually the I printed out a smaller version of what I drew. So I think I printed out a 3x5 size and a 4x6 size. And I just figured out which one worked on the page. And then I just put my a piece of watercolor paper on top and re-sketched it, re-inked it. So now I have 2 trees. I have my big original one, which I think I really like, and I'm thinking I want to actually put it on a canvas. So I will paint that one and put it on like a big canvas where it can actually live, because the journal page was just too small, and I definitely didn't want to have a tree that was in the middle of the page and get bent in half, because these concepts were big. So I used up 2 journal pages and even turned my journal so it was vertical instead of horizontal, in order to sort of try to get all my ideas on there for what I was trying to do. So this is my smaller size tree, but it looks, it should look pretty much identical to the old tree, except that it doesn't have like as much of a root system at the bottom, because I drew it really close to the bottom. I don't know why I did that, but I did. And so now I just, adding color. I want this tree to have some moss on it. It's an old ancient tree, and I want it to have nice pockets everywhere where, you could just imagine things could live in there, and, you travel through the root system, and inside there's probably an entire world in there to explore. So this is just the outside of the planet, and then inside those roots, there is all kinds of good stuff happening in there. Who knows what creatures you would discover in there, right? So yeah, I am flying with this, with these prompts now, I should say. At first, it was a struggle, and like I said, just reading, what is energy? I didn't have to read what are roots, because when I hear roots, I'm instantly like, oh, trees, and obviously, that is something that I find much easier to translate to an illustration as opposed to, atmosphere and energy. But the way that these prompts challenged me, I really loved it. So I loved it. I was really thrilled with creating these pages, because this is something I wouldn't have done without these prompts. I would never, maybe at some point I would have thought of it, but I don't really think so. I don't know that I would have ever drawn a tree planet. And that's, I say it all the time, but that really is why I love to do prompts. They really get you to create things that you never would have thought. And especially the whole sharing them with a friend or a loved one. Having someone else choose your prompts for you is really exciting, because number one, you have no idea what you're going to get. And number two, it could just be something that you would never think of, and I know I say that all the time too, but I'm just super excited about journal prompt challenges. Okay, so this is getting painted. My background is drying, and then I still have to work on the sun, and I have to work on atmosphere. And I do have an idea for atmosphere, and that will sort of help with my illustration of temperature too. I think you can let me know if you think it works. If you think all of my ideas came together and made sense, or if you're like, huh, Amy, what are you doing? That's fine too. But in my head, I guess I'll say it made sense. And it's funny too, I wanted to draw that little knot, the little hole in the tree, and it looks like an eyeball, and I loved that, so I didn't want to draw any more like that. I was like, I'm just gonna leave that how it is, because is that an eyeball? I leave that up to the viewer to decide. And here are my tiny little animals that are living on this planet, and I was drawing them really small so that I could put them around the tree. And the tree would obviously be loaded with all kinds of critters and stuff, but I'm just drawing a few to sort of represent something that would fly, something that would be in the water, something that would be in the forest, something that would hang out in the roots, something in the branches, and I could always add some more critters if I wanted to later, but for now I just wanted to put them in there so you can see that this is a planet where you could live. There's air, there's water, there's food, there's warmth and light, and there's lots to explore. So I cut them out and I'll pop them in later, but first I thought it would be easier to use the gel pen before I put them in, so that way I don't have to try to go around them. So I'm just putting in my little textures and details and things that I like to do with the gel pen. And then I'll add the little critters in once I've figured out where my gel pen's going. And I'll put the critters in on top. Then I will cut out the tree from this watercolor paper and I will glue it onto the background. Oh, and I wanted to add just a few more little, nicks and just have it look like there was a couple little holes and some little texture and dots here and there, just to make it look more tree-ish, because this tree is ancient, so got to give it some character. And now just gluing in the little animals and figuring out where they go. And again, they're just representing. There's actually more than what I'm gluing on here, but just to give you an idea that this is a livable place. And here comes the sun. I gotta get this guy all dry before I can paint, but I didn't wait long enough, so that was a little oopsie there where I went in with the yellow and then instantly I got like some black where the ink smudged, but I kept going. I figure I can kind of hide it a bit, and yeah, if you're looking for blooms and stuff, then don't use the heat gun, as Care pointed out in one of my watercolor videos, which is so important to say. But sometimes I'm just drying things quickly, so it depends what look you're going for and what sort of effect you want to have. So sometimes use the heat gun and sometimes don't when you're painting. And then I realized that this tree planet is a little bit bigger than the space, because of course I'm making that light blue color be the part that you can live in. And there's my sun with the sunlight, which is looking a little green, but I'll do my best to make it look a little more yellow. And then I'm just getting that good old tacky glue on and putting the tree planet down with the old rocks. And here comes the atmosphere. So the atmosphere, I wanted to be the barrier between the cold of space and the temperate inside the atmosphere, where we have our whole little not planetary system, but our one planet. And what I thought was, the atmosphere is made up of gases, and I thought, what if I make like a gaseous dragon? Now it sounds weird, but I don't mean, what I mean is it's like an air dragon. So again, I drew a dragon head. The dragon head was way too big, so I am redrawing it at the bottom here. But what I thought was I would represent the atmosphere as being this air dragon, and the air dragon has a long body that floats behind him, and he has curled up and made this oval, and inside the oval is where the tree planet is and the sun, and he's keeping everything warm and safe and cozy in there. And you'll see, there's another little oopsie there. I was using some of my inks. This is not watercolor that I'm using now. These are some, what do you call it? Shimmering? Is it shimmering India inks? And I went to, they have the dropper bottle top there. And so I went to blob some out into my ceramic dish, and it sort of exploded. It was like there was some sort of like a kludgy blockage. And so when I went to squeeze out a couple of drops, it just was like pop and exploded on my desk and my paper. And I don't think I actually got it on myself or my clothes, but yeah, I mean, it cleaned right up off the desk, but it did stain this paper immediately. But it's okay, because I'm going to cut this guy out anyway. And, you know, I'm using that color anyway, so it's not like it stained it a random color I wasn't using. And I thought it would be fun to use sort of space-y kind of colors for this dragon. He's got his shimmeries, you know, 80s, I guess. Again, you know, I can't help myself. I guess I love sort of the 80s space colors. And so that's my space dragon, my gaseous space dragon. So yes, his body is made up of tissue paper that I ripped, and you know, you could see in the previous clip that I was gluing it onto the page. And then I'll have his head resting with his tail. I was going to make his tail like curled up under his head, and then I actually didn't make a tail. Like the tissue sort of makes a tail, but like I was also going to draw and paint a tail, but I wound up not doing that. So there's his head. Or their head. It's not necessarily a him or anything. And then I realized I needed some more tissue because the head and neck was bigger than the tissue body, and I wanted to kind of all flow together. So let's get some more texture in here. Let's beef up this gaseous dragon's body. We gotta make this atmosphere nice and just fill it in, because I do want to paint it as well. I'm going to get my India inks and I'm going to paint the body same colors as the dragon's head. So I want to have enough room to do that. I don't want this to be too thin. So I'm hoping that you get the idea of, you know, there's one temperature on the outside and a different temperature on the inside. And that's how it's showing temperature instead of a thermometer. And then just using my India inks again to get a little bit of texture in there. So I'm hoping you can sort of tell that that's the dragon's body. It's not just something random. And yeah, we are just about done. I think I'm just going to add the colors here, and then I'm going to add a little bit more yellow where the sun is, because these shimmering inks are so nice, and I thought, well, the sun should have some shimmer too. So I'm going to add a little yellow on there as well, and then we are pretty much done. There's the yellow. Luckily, that one didn't explode. And that would be okay, too, if it exploded. I mean, you know, these things happen, and you just gotta make it work. But that's not to say it's not frustrating at times. And I wanted to just really make sure you could tell that that's space out there. I'm just really trying to make it look cold, you know, the cold of space. So I'm adding some stars in there, and that, I believe, is going to be our finishing touch, and then we are all done. And yeah, this was a blast. This is actually one of my favorite pages. So I would encourage you, if you haven't done prompts yet, you know, pick someone and do some prompts. It's really fun, and you get some surprising results, and it definitely pushes you creatively in a great way. So we are done. We have energy, atmosphere, roots, temperature, habitat. Woohoo, we did it! Thank you so much for coming along with me. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you again soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.